Hey, I'm Dan, and this is Dan's Planes. Welcome to the Little Toni, also known as the Cosmic Wind. I think this is a Great Plains kit. I'm not quite sure, or Great Plains ARF. So I was flying this guy, and at the time, we had telephone poles going down the front part of our landing strip. And sure enough, I hit one of the wires. So it hit the wire, swung hanging on the prop, flipped over, and went straight down to the ground. And it shattered the aluminum prop and it busted out all four corners of the uh, firewall and busted up cowl. So I had done some repairs on the cowl that would have to be sanded down because I have way too much epoxy on them. I've epoxied the firewall. Doesn't look pretty, but it's structurally sound, and that's what's important. Then in here, that former had broken out. So I've now got to epoxy that back in. So I'm going to do that today. If I epoxy that back in, I can still reach it through the front. Bear with me for just a second here. Where I had cut away the front so I could get on the insides to go around the firewall with epoxy. So I can get to this former too. I can get to both sides on that. And I should take this off and epoxy down the center because it's cracked. I picked up another one of these, just the ARF, no electronics, no engine, at the Perry swap meet. I want to say it was just $100, and I think it had two canopies with it. I think. So anyway, I've got another one, but the color was really dull on that one versus this. But I might steal the cowl from there, and retire this cowl, or save it for if I screw up the other cowl so bad. But that's what's going on with this, and I'm now going to get that former epoxied in. Going to use 30-minute epoxy with micro balloons. We're back with the Little Toni. I attempted to take apart the tank so I could verify what lines are what, but that stopper was not coming out. If it was coming out, it would have been using a screwdriver, which would have been cutting it, and instead I filled the tank with fuel and tested which lines were which with the blow test, where you blow on the exhaust and it pushes through to what the carburetor is or what the fill line is. The fill and the carburetor lines are basically the same if they both have pickups on them. But I think I've got them. They were marked with, what was it? E, F, and V. So I was thinking maybe that was vent, but then exhaust. And F, let's see, was it E? Was it E, F, V? Is that right? I don't know. Anyway, I think I got the lines right, but we'll find out when I try to run it. I took the engine off. I could barely turn the thing. You got to be real careful when they're stuck like that. It's been so many years and I didn't put any oil in it. I thought I would get back to it quicker than I did. Story of my life. So it's all gummed up. I tried to remove this bolt and stripped it out because, why would anything be easy? And I know better than that. I know when they're gummed up, you need to just stick them in the oven first, which I did at 200 degrees for 20 minutes. And I removed the spark plug, pulled it out, put oil in all the openings, some automatic transmission fluid in all the openings, and moved it all around, got movement on it, have good compression on it. It's definitely stiff. The carburetor still would not move, so I had to break out the handy dandy blowtorch, mini blowtorch, and get that heated up. In the process, I moved this, so I've got to realign that. I've just learned that when I fixed all the wall, some epoxy got here onto my push rod, so I'm trying to dig that out, and that's going slow. What else? Oh, I put the wheel pant back on. The former in there is definitely solid. This came with foam in it, so the foam, there's a piece this way which blocks the tank from moving backwards, and this piece then blocks the foam and tank from moving backwards. My batteries came in, I've cycle charged them. Now I fully charged them, so we should be good to go with that. So I'm trying to attempt to run this today. So I've got to get this unclogged. To dig out the epoxy that accidentally got in there, I used this Dremel with a drill bit and just plunged it in and ran it around, and it shredded it up real nice. A lot easier than trying to use an X-Acto on it. Now she moves nice and freely like she normally would. And my throttle servo is running continuously. I don't know why that is, but just gonna swap it out. Also, here is the shattered spinner from when it went straight down from the power line. I'm really surprised the crankshaft didn't break in the motor, but it appears to be fine. I guess the screw and the spinner took all the brunt of it. Here is the Cosmic Wind after I had to add a little bit of weight right here. I don't know the exact amount. It's probably around 14 to 21 grams, so not a whole lot. That's to make up for all of the epoxy I had to put in the cowling and around the firewall to repair it from when I hit the power lines. So this leaves it just a touch nose heavy, which I'm okay with. Don't know if you can see that, but that's what it is. So now we need to start it up, get that engine running after it's been several years, and I need to convert it to, well, I'm not going to convert it to my Radio Master because Radio Master does not allow telemetry for Hitec. And my plan is, since this has a Hitec receiver in it, I was going to run telemetry. However, I need a 7-channel receiver to run telemetry, and I only have a 6-channel, and you can't just go out and buy these anymore, so you have to wait for them to pop up on the RC groups. There was somebody who had 2 transmitters and a whole bunch of receivers, and I couldn't get to him fast enough to try to buy his 7-channel. So the other option too is I could borrow my 7-channel from my Sundowner, which has a whole bunch of telemetry in it, and just borrow it for here, because all I want to do is see how fast it's going. So that is the plan. Maybe I'll just put it in my new radio until I get a 7-channel to put in it. I don't know. But next step is to run it, so that's the plan. This is the first attempt trying to start the Little Toni Cosmic Wind after it's been sitting for, I don't know, I'd say at least 3 or 4 years. I put the oven and the motor, strike that, reverse it. I put the motor in the oven at 200 degrees for about 10 minutes to get everything loosened up, which it did, and I oiled everywhere I could with automatic transmission fluid. So here we go. Okay, we got 9,450 RPMs. 10,000 would be ideal, but for not having ran in so many years and not knowing the condition of it, I'm pretty happy with that. Now, it's still having a problem when it goes, first of all, down to idle. It's not going low enough for idle, and then when I give it full throttle from idle, it's dying. So 2 different issues. I think my glow driver is about dead. Okay, I'm getting about 2,000 RPM on the low side. I'd like to be around 1,500 RPM. I think what's needed now is to adjust the low end needle ever so slightly because of that transition where it's dying when I go from low to high. It just dies out. It's almost like it's leaned out. So I feel like making the low end rich would be the way to go. See if there's any improvement. But I don't think I can get to it with the cowling on. Yeah, the engine is mounted sideways, so the head is sticking out at the 9 o'clock position. So I'm going to have to remove the spinner, the prop, the cowl, the muffler, and then put it all back together without the cowl and run it up. The reason why I had all the front end and everything put together before I did this test is because I wanted to try to get the CG right first, which I did. And while I was working on that, I was also doing the oven on the engine and running oil through it. So I'll take those things apart and then we'll put it back together and see. But I'm very, very pleased that the engine has ran after all these years and after coming straight down off of that electrical wire. Glad that the crank isn't broken, that there don't seem to be any issues with it. It seems to be running pretty strong. Thanks for watching. Okay, I've made 2 adjustments to the low end screw. I made it rich by about 1/4 of a turn almost. Now, when I give it full throttle from idle, it's not dying. It's not starving for fuel. Perfect response. My tachometer died on me, so I've got to go to a backup, see where my settings are, but I'm guessing that's around 2000 RPM, which is what I got on other 91 FS's with larger props, so it may be the best I can do. That transition is beautiful. Okay, I've got the backup tack. I tried new batteries in my tack and it's just dead. The screen was starting to go out, so it's time to throw that away, so I'll go back to my mini tack. And thankfully, I had 1 spare battery on hand, brand new battery. So totally lucked out. So let's see if we can get some readings. Sometimes when you change the low end needle, you have to go back and change the high end needle. We'll see if we can get closer to 10,000 RPM. Okay, we didn't pick up any top end RPM. It's at 947 and the low end is at 2000 to 2300. Still getting a perfect response. So we are there. We can put the cowl back on. The CG is taken care of. So I believe she's ready to fly. I do need to fix 2 screws that hold the bottom part of the cowl on. The holes got too big, the screws have come out, so need to fill that in. That's not too uncommon to happen when you leave it on idle for too long. All in all, I am ecstatic that this has worked out so well after so many years of being tucked away and then having the engine all gummed up. This is just beautiful. Hope you enjoyed this, and if you would, like and subscribe and all that stuff. If you'd like to chip in towards my goal of getting a better camera and sound equipment, you can go to my Patreon link in the description. But I wish you good speed and blue skies.